It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch Esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through one thing. It's just gonna solidify everything within those.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC with the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Annabelle immediately goes back and finds skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to CGL, where it's Saturday night. It's time for some NA Masters tier as Proboscis Esports take on Void Ravens. My name is Dextron. I am joined by Thor here tonight. Thor, we have a great series here tonight on our hands.
Exactly, and if there's one thing at least that have set the tone for Masters tier this week, it has been some close matches. Earlier in that, I think it was on a Wednesday, really close matchup between two Masters teams, and hey, we're probably looking at something hopefully similar, but let's take a look at where we at least have started for today's set of matches, starting off with the EU earlier today.
Yeah, it was the Tormented Tentacles taking on HMS Saber over there, and Saber able to get a good 3-0 victory. I was able to tune in for a brief moment in that series, and it really seemed like Saber understood everything they wanted to do in that one. A really, really good series for them. But for Proboscis and Void Ravens, these two teams both did play in 3-0s last week. Void Ravens, though, came up on top. Proboscis, on the other hand, well, they got swept. They're looking to bounce back here tonight, find their first victory of the season. Only 2 games in, though, so nothing too bad if they end up losing here.
Exactly, but you do want to set some sort of tone and see at least improvements over the first week of matches versus second week of matches. So if I am Proboscis Esports, this is something to redeem themselves with.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially going up against a team like Void Ravens, you never necessarily know how hard or how good they play in that game one. Yeah, they got a sweep, but still, week one, I think a lot of teams learn a lot about themselves in that week, and you normally do see a little bit of a good uptick from every team, even if they lost, going into week 2 here. But much like throughout this second week, we do know what our first map will be, as it is set in stone. We're going to be heading to the Samoa map here to get everything started.
Set in the fires of the volcano on the lovely beach sides, these teams will at least have an opportunity to show a different set of compositions. While Control has normally been a map dominated by brawlier compositions, it's not really unheard of to at least go a different type of path. But what at least has been consistent among teams so far is with the introduction of Wuyang. Wuyang has become an integral part in some of these compositions now, with a couple of teams running that Kiri Wuyang backline. So not so much sticking to a Kiri Lu show like the good old days, but trying to reinvent and seeing some success in it.
Yeah, Wuyang is definitely one of those heroes that has really made a big splash, pun intended, since coming into the game here. A really good hero with healing, a really good hero with damage, and really just good survivability as well. I mean, it's just one of those strong heroes coming out of the gate, but I feel like that's normally going to be the case here when it comes to new heroes. They're going to be maybe a little bit strong once they get introduced here. But hey, bans online here now. Void Ravens getting our first ban of the night. Heading into Samoa here, Thor. Who do you normally expect to see banned, or who would you want to see banned?
Well, Normally, you'd see maybe an Orisa ban if you really don't want to deal with the very hard brawl. With the nerfs that they've put on Ramatra has been seeing a significantly less amount of play time, with teams now leaning in more into an Orisa, maybe sometimes a Hazard, depending on what the backline is, and sometimes a Winston. So you're probably going to see one of those 3 tanks come into play, less these teams go for something crazy. But as I say this, a Lucio ban on control, understandable. I think some teams have started to slowly lean into a Lucio ban on control maps, and already you have an idea of which composition is going to be run. So you're going to likely see a Kiri Wuyang type of backline, at least for this map of Samoa.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Lucio right now is starting to fall into that same kind of area where I would always say Juno and Kiriko, maybe in like the previous seasons of Overwatch, those were your safe bans. Lucio now also falling into a safe ban with the introduction of Wuyang here. But now, Proboscis does have the ban here. They can go after a tank, they can go after a DPS hero here. You already did talk about a lot of tanks. Who would you normally expect to see on the... Oh, well, never mind. Don't even have to ask the question. D.Va, gonna be the ban here.
I think a D.Va ban, bit interesting to go for in something like control, but if you're planning to play maybe a specific type of DPS, like let's say a flyer or more of a double hit scan, maybe kind of set up, you'd want a D.Va out just to mitigate the amount of damage that would be coming in. Right now, there's nothing really eating it all up. Teams have to play a bit more safer sightlines, that's so to say. So that's something that could be considered, but let's take a look at these teams and who is starting off with Proboscis Esports. We do have J20 and Geo for that DPS line, Earl running the tank, and just at the back we have TJ and JPEG Mafia.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a fun lineup on paper here, but again, it's always really interesting to see what all the players pick as their preferred heroes, because normally a lot of times we don't see that. And hey, we won't be seeing TJ clipped here TJ with the Lucio here on the first map, since that is banned out. Now to their opponents tonight, looking to keep that momentum up from their week 1 victory, the Void Ravens. Their lineup is Altaria, Quexion, Hunted, Lynx, and Gollywagon, or Golly G Wagon here.
Golly gee whiz. Well, if there's one thing Golly is already showing is that Wuyang, so we're definitely they're definitely going to be playing this new character rolling into Samoa, which honestly very fitting with the amount of water there is in this map.
Water, I mean, there is lava. I mean, you can definitely either
Water,
make cobblestone
Jason.
You could make a cobblestone generator maybe, or just a whole bunch of obsidian, or in real life, just die.
Yeah. But you know, we could also play it in blocky terms and whatnot. But these are your lineups for these two teams. At least from what we know as casters for Proboscis Esports, this is pretty much your 5 through and through. Nothing's going to change. While on the side of Void Ravens, they do have some substitutes as needed, and I think we might be seeing some of them come to life if a certain character stops being banned.
Yeah, absolutely here, but looks like as we head in now to Samoa, we're going to be starting off on, I think this might be everyone's favorite point, and if it's not, then it's at least the favorite point you want to visit. It's going to be beach here to get everything started.
I mean, I'd rather be hanging out at a beach any day than inside a sweltering volcano that is somehow air conditioned. How that's going to
That's a lab,
feasibly
so it might
work,
be.
I'm not sure too much, but already we are loading into beach. Normally, you'll have maybe like a double hit scan setup could work, especially with how that high ground bridge is designed. Sometimes you might have a lot of or in the case of or for something like a venture instead, which if left unmonitored could cause chaos and annoyance.
Chaos is always a fun thing to have in a lot of these games here, but I mean, right now, coming out of the gate, Malga has been a hero that we've started to see a lot more here recently, not as busted as he was at one point right after launch, and there's a lot of people who really believe that Malga is actually somewhat making a comeback.
I think a Mauga comeback is heavily dependent on what backline you're running. I think you need something that's there to really just keep your Mauga up with amount of damage that's coming in. So you're already considering what's the damage output from the enemy team when you play a Mauga.
Yeah, and right now I think a lot of this Mauga comp kind of hinges on how good Geo is going to be able to kind of combo with them when Mauga goes charging in here. Jay already low. Geo waiting to get some healing here. Finally going to be able to get there, but Hunted very low on health here. Has to use that Fortify to keep him alive, but Earl now has completely disengaged Jay. They're going to be able to find Quexion here first, and they're just trying to find something here now.
Yep, something is that Genji and the point should at least go in the favor of Proboscis Esports so far if Earl just stays alive.
Yeah, right now it's going to be Void Ravens getting this first cap here. And still, I mean, you're going to lose Dolly, but Jay, they've been a constant binder of picks here for Proboscis here. But still, you just need to be able to get the point. Hunted doing everything they really need to here on this Orisa, using that Fortify good, but are they going to be able to survive the charge here? As you just see Earl pumping all the damage. The Terror Surge comes out. Hunted will be able to find TJ Clip there. Earl falling after it. Altaria picking up 2, and somehow, some way, Void Ravens going to be able to stabilize here, holding on to the point still.
Yep, you'd think with the picks going along the way of Proboscis, it would be a whole different story, but JPEG already using that window during that fight means they have been pumping most of the healing for this Proboscis team. Jay building up towards a high noon might be that signal opener for the team as PJ is just a bit ways away from Rush. So this might be a Rush v Rush with Void Rated Fence opening it first.
Yeah, right now, I mean, they're just trying to find anything here. I mean, that Rush is going to come out there from Lynx, but you lose Quexion here early on. You really want to build up that blade during it. Geo trying to do what they can in that backline, just going to fall back to the safety of their own tank here as Hunt's going to be able to find Earl here, and this is exactly what you're looking for if you're Void Ravens. Overclock coming out from Altaria as well. Going to be able to pump in a lot of damage, but it's going to be Hunted picking up all the kills.
Yep, clean up for Void Ravens, holding steadily this 60%. If I'm Proboscis, you still have your rush. You've already forced the rush of Void Ravens. You'll definitely have to open up with it and maybe layer that on with a high noon after you can force a cooldown that could cancel it. Whether that's going to be the Genji Blade or whether that's going to be the Spear of Hunted. Who, by the way, Hunted doing what their name is, hunting down everything else. Not being the Hunted.
I mean, they've been playing this over so really good so far here, and they have that Terror Surge ready to go here. I believe they also have the tidal wave on them. It's going to be Golly finding one, but that damage is coming out there from JPEG, going to be able to shut them down. However, you're looking for a touchdown here for Proboscis. Quexion going to shut them down coming out of the gate. Quexion with 3.
I see the value, right, of why you want to run maybe that Kiri Baptiste with your Mauga. Right? It's you have a number of cooldowns to just keep your Mauga up, whether that's through Lamp, whether that's through a Suzu, but I think there seems to be a bit of a miscommunication on which cooldown are we popping first to keep our Mauga up, because there have been times where JPEG does drop that Lamp and somehow Earl has just run out of it, so now the value of the Lamp isn't really just as there to keep a point steady. So in order to match the Orisa, Earl themselves are going to this Orisa. So this might be a bit more of an interesting matchup with more sustain on the side of Proboscis. So that allows for people like TJ and JPEG to do a bit more DPSing, because now your tank is able to survive just a bit longer against this high damage off-angle setup from Void Ravens.
And you're also not the brick house known as Mauga anymore. So yeah, you are still a big target, but you're not necessarily the biggest target left on the field anymore here. But still, I like what Void Ravens did here, just going straight to point, and you already see TJ here being able to get a couple good shots in there, a couple of headshot dings, but it's going to be Golly finding them out here early on, and Void Ravens picking up right where they left off there, already finding the first pick here. Geo trying just to disrupt in that backline, but everyone's playing so far apart. Void Ravens that they're going to kind of be sitting ducks. Nice spear there by Hunted, getting Geo out of this fight.
Yep, the style of Proboscis Esports right now is really circling and corralling this team of Void Ravens is just corralling Proboscis in this awkward angle and getting the trades. So this should turn over, at least fight-wise, in the favor of Void Ravens. Nothing online for ultimates just yet. A rush available for Void Ravens, window already online for Proboscis. So if I'm Proboscis, you kind of have to stabilize a bit and open up maybe with this window. But that requires your team to just push past maybe this choke initially, just so that Void Ravens can kite the window.
Yeah, and I mean, the window needs to be in a good spot here because there's a lot of areas where Void Ravens can really kite out, like you were saying. The Void Ravens, 3 ultimates ready to go, and hey, all 3 ultimates are out there now, and they are finding value. Make it 4. There's number 5 as Void Ravens just sent Proboscis packing.
And if I'm Void Ravens, you know it might seem costly given that Proboscis hasn't really used any ultimates, but at the same time, Proboscis is still building towards theirs. So you have 2 online and available, and you're forcing out cooldowns already from Proboscis. So kite to this corner and just maybe pop a overclock or a Genji Blade if you want to sustain, or just get the kills, which happens to be the case.
Right now, I mean, Altaria is just going in, finding 2 with that overclock right there. TJ not going to be able to escape this time around either, and Void Ravens, they won their first series of the season. Now they're already looking to try to get that lockdown here early on with the dominance on. There's that Emmett just trying to get Void Ravens to back out, but no, everyone's just going to be able to kite away. Proboscis, do they have enough to even get back to point here? The overtime will commence here as Steel going to be able to find 1, but the blade from Quexion, much like in the first point, might just stop everything here for Proboscis again, but more touches coming out here. Earl with the Terror Surge here, but will it be enough? Doesn't seem like so far. Lynx, though, finds them, TJ and Jay out, and Earl, Void Ravens, with a really dominant map 1 here.
Yep. Void Ravens understanding that the aggression is needed, but this is the type of tempered aggression, right? You know that you want to avoid Proboscis from touching the point, you hold further up, and you don't dump all 5 ults at the same time, right? They've used 2, 3 just to combo it off and hold it off from there. And understanding they were at a ult deficit, have just backed up slowly.
Yeah, absolutely here. But I mean, if you're Void Ravens, you're absolutely happy with how this first map went for you. I mean, you came out, you had a plan, you really dominated through and through. But now, if you are the side of Proboscis Esports here, what do they need to do here? Because it seemed like they had good ideas at times. They were able to find a couple early picks in a lot of fights, but they never really were ever able to translate that actually into a team fight victory.
I think it comes down to, from what we at least see as casters, is the positioning of how Proboscis attacks the point. You know how Void Ravens really were corralling them by pincering them from both sides. The only way you could stop a corral from happening themselves is to also do some level of split. It seems that while Void Ravens may be doing a split, they know how to kind of tighten themselves into a certain fight area and hold 2 different angles to ensure that fight happens. I think Proboscis could do something similar, and in doing so, you kind of force the fight into a more neutral territory that's even and not really an uncomfortable position. Let's take, for example, I think we saw the DPS of Geo go for 1 angle and was on his own through all of that. You could send another support to go with them and have that, you know, enabling from 2 sides. I think that's something they need to consider rather than just, you know, doing a full-on front to back, because there's only so much front to back can do if you're not getting the picks.
Yeah, and absolutely, but it's not like Proboscis was necessarily making these big mistakes either. They didn't have anyone kind of going off on their own and doing their own adventure. They were playing very close together like you would expect a lot of teams to. They just weren't really ever finding the value out of it or finding any kind of success from it, which was a bad thing. But it felt like Void Ravens, they took control of points very early and they really rarely ever gave them up. There's probably only one time where I can say like, hey, they might have overextended a little bit. That was on the first point. But at the same time, it was on the first point as that point was being completed, essentially, when they made that overextension.
Yep, and when you're that team at an advantage, that's something you're okay with taking the trade-off or taking a gamble in, right? Holding them off so far forward with barely any percentage left until full cap. But if there's a map type that doesn't involve full capping, at least points-wise, it's payload maps. And that's where we are headed to next, with Circuit Royale being the map of choice for Proboscis.
Let's go to the streets of Monaco here. I mean, this is a fun map. You see a lot of teams that really start to play this map now, and I really like it. You can play a lot of different compositions on it, whether it be dive, brawl, poke. Poke, though, is kind of the go-to, at least for the first point. But then after that, it feels like it kind of opens up into any kind of composition. However, it's fair. I will say that second point push, Thor, is one of the more difficult point pushes in Overwatch itself, because if you get up the hill and lose a fight, that defensive team has all the advantage after that.
Yep. I think map design wise, that second point really is a do or die. You must push it through or you're gonna get held by the defense. Another map of similar design happens to also be our notorious Watchpoint Gibraltar. It's still the bane of my existence. Is if you don't get through second point, it now becomes a long, hard struggle to take it back. So Proboscis Esports, though, have at least the first take on what character to ban. If for some teams they do like being silly, they might not have as a proficient of a hit scan player, so they end up banning a Widowmaker, even though they want to play Circuit Royale. Very interesting sometimes when they do that, but it is an option. Another to disrupt, I guess, the type of compositions that could be played or limit them is banning a Sigma. Some teams do that really just to throw enemy teams for a loop.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now, I mean, this is a big thing on this map in particular because you do see a lot of unique playstyles come out. Soj being banned out here is huge. That is absolutely huge, I think, because you talk about hit scans. This is a good Widow map, a good Freya map, a good Cassidy map, Hanzo, Ashe. Getting rid of Soj is kind of that middle ground between, hey, they want to be run and gun, they can play back with their supports. Now you're kind of either being back with your supports, playing some of those hit scans, or being frontline, say like Cassidy and probably Hanzo, or my bad, Ashe, if you're going to be trying to, play a little bit forward.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. This is forcing teams to decide whether they want to be further back or further or up front in terms of hit scan playstyle. But I also think it removing a Sojourn really also removes the value of the E ability, which can be very annoying when you're trying to hold a specific tight space, especially in maybe that second point kind of bridge area is, or bridge path area is one. But the Zen ban by Void Ravens, also a spectacular pick. I am one of those who would also advocate for a Zen ban on Circuit Royale for the sole reason that Zen does high volume damage, but also you want that Discord orb removed. When you're playing in a sightline that's very open, you want to remove anything that would cause you to take in more damage than you should. So something like a Zen out of the game plan really allows you to maybe, hey, we can brawl a bit better if we want to brawl it out just a bit. Our hit scans, or at least our tank, has some level of breathing room rather than having, hey, perma Discord on them.
Yeah, absolutely. But no tank being banned here is really interesting because you always see this map as being one of those maps that you want to get a tank out. Sigma is still very strong here on Matra, even in their weakened state at the moment, still really good on this map. Hazard has really started to come alive here. But one thing that I was talking about here, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, that this is a map that you see a lot of interesting compositions and heroes that don't normally show up other places. I mean, Zen, this is definitely one of Zen's better maps. You don't necessarily see Zen outside of this that often. You could see Mei, you could see Iari, you could see Sim come out here. A lot of interesting kind of compositions that could happen here. And hey, you get rid of the Zen, but you still have a lot of wild cards that could come out.
I mean, some teams still go for that surprise play of Mara over that background if you're attacking first, or then some silly stuff like the Life Weaver or Reinhardt from there also has been played and done by some for I think for them, just looking at what they're running so far, seem to at least be confident that they can brute force their way in, whether that's through the high damage of the Freya, especially with those take aim bolts, and on the side of the Orisa, it's the really just being able to stay and brawl it out. So I think when you're looking at it from a brawl v brawl situation, it's leaning in favor of Void Ravens, right? Earl has to know when to just back off, take a bit of breathing room before re-aggressing, because he's not really running a backline that allows him to brawl. This is a pokier kind of composition from Proboscis versus that of Void Ravens that could move into a type of brawlier kind of gameplay.
And I think that's what they kind of want here. They want to be able to be more up in your face here, especially with how that first map went. They seem to really want to be in your face at all times. But Jay was someone who actually really stood out to me last map for Proboscis. They had a strong start on that first point, but kind of slowed down once Void Ravens got going. They need Jay here to be able to find a couple picks early, and that's exactly what you needed right there. Getting rid of Lynx, and now there goes your main source of healing. Golly G can only do so much here as Void Ravens stopped dead in their tracks.
Yep. I think if you are Void Raven, to slow down a bit, you're down your Baptiste, so that's your main source of healing out, and really the Wuyang really doesn't do as much healing, right? It's more of just amplifying and making sure to pop up the squishies as needed. So Hunted, seeing what Proboscis is running, switches to their own Sigma and allows them to brawl just a bit better in this high ground, but already dropping very low.
I mean, it allows them to actually go up against the Sigma a little bit better. The Orisa wall, it needs to be in your face. You kind of just get outranged there by Sigma on the other side. Quaxion, though, gonna shut down Jay. That opens up a lot here now for Void Ravens as Lynx, coming back from the dead, finds one. Everybody on the side of Void Ravens getting their name in that kill feed, but Quaxion, they want a couple more. It's gonna be Geo that takes himself out technically, but Quaxion right there to make sure that they saw it.
Yep. And you can see already Hunted pushing this very up, nothing else to contest the card. So first point capture should be already good for Void Raven. So if you're Proboscis, nothing online yet except for this Freya ultimate. So you're hoping this gets immense value, as this is going to be a Freya v Freya situation.
Already that first point here, and I like what Void Ravens is doing here, just playing up a little bit, and oh, Geo maybe falling down a little bit too early. They should be able to escape with their life, and looks like they're going to be able to get back to the safety of their team. But right now, Void Ravens still just casually pushing the cart here, and especially as they come up to ultimates, so already the tidal wave out here onto Quaxion, going to be able to knock down JPEG, but not going to be able to find the pickers at Immortality Field. Albola's shot did come out there from Geo, doesn't land on anyone, and Void Ravens, again, slowly picking off everyone on the side of Proboscis, one by one here. They're just gonna casually push this card here, and honestly, they might get second point off this.
Yep, just how late that fight happened, or at least the picks happened, there really wasn't any from Proboscis, so that allowed the cart to continue moving slowly. It felt like there wasn't a struggle or fight happening at cart, which was a problem in itself for Proboscis. Now Void Ravens will have 4 in this next engagement, and I think just using 1 or 2 should be enough to clear this up, and they're starting out with Flux.
Flux is out. Immortality Field's going to be able to keep Earl alive here, but that Immortality Field gets almost immediately deleted right there. Bullet shot onto Earl as well. Quaxion going to find them. Jay, after finding the first pick for Proboscis in this entire map, kind of struggling ever since, almost what we saw exactly on map 1, but that's not their fault here.
Yep, no, it's definitely not. Void Ravens have made the swaps to, I guess, enable what this composition that they want to run. So if I'm Proboscis, you gotta open up with an ultimate at some point. Have something at least online to deal with this Genji, and it might be the Flux at the end of the day.
Well, it's going to be the Amich coming out here, and I don't mind this actually being the first ultimate thrown out, because again, force Void Raven just to fall back, and hey, bonus on top of that, you get rid of Hunted and Altaria. This slows down Void Ravens here in a fight that Proboscis really needed to actually go their way here. They're going to be able to find a victory and continue to find some picks here. Thor, they can finally start to eat away at this time back, and oh, the flick of the wrist with the rock.
Yep. Quaxion stayed way too long for their liking, but if I'm Void Ravens, I have 3 ultimates. You could definitely open up with what I call the, I guess, the Blast Blade combo of, hey, let's put the Wuyang ult on the Genji as the Genji goes into Genji Blade.
Well, speaking of the Blast Blade combo, here it is. Golly going to be able to find Geo right there. The Blast already came off the Blade, though, still going on. TJ going to be able to shut it down, but still an even trade coming out there. But it costs the 2 ultimates, you'll take that. However, here's 2 more ultimates coming out here. The Captive Sun going to be just eaten up. Say hello to the hand right there is the Sun. Ant-Man's coming out there from Lynx, but they need to fall back a little bit just to keep themselves alive. Earl really coming alive here right now for Proboscis, as they have really been a key contributor here to slowing down Void Ravens.
Yep, Flux from Hunted gets a lot, but forces out the lamp, so everyone else in Proboscis is still semi-healthy, but with no Baptiste.
Yeah, golly, they've been doing really good on this Wu Yang here. We talked about how important Wu Yang was going to be in this entire series. Void Raven seeming to be really the only team that's comfortable playing it so far, as Proboscis really hasn't been. But you do see Proboscis coming up to 3 ultimates here, and you're really going to need them to come out at a time like this. There's the Emmett again. You're looking to kind of force people back. Jay popping the visor, but Link's going to be able to shut them down. You want to be able to try to find one there. Link's going to be able to get Geo out of the sky, and this is just what we've seen a lot of these team fights from Void Ravens. It's one after one after one right here as Earl falls, and it will be Void Ravens completing the map with over 2.5 minutes on that time bank, Thor.
I mean, that's a hefty time bank in my eyes for something like Circuit Royale. Normally teams, you either get stuck at one of the points, or when you do full cap Circuit Royale, there's really not much time left. So the 2-minute 36 time bank that Void Ravens have is a testament to how quick they were just rolling, and Gollywagon not even dying throughout that whole engagement, pumping up just about 1:1 damage and healing. So you could see how much contribution they're already putting in. As for the side of Proboscis, though, it's not looking as solid, and they're definitely struggling to just get the trades or at least get the picks. It seemed like they had that first opening, but then they start to kind of crumble the moment the players of Void Ravens come in, especially Quexion on that Genji. Quexion doing a huge amount of work for Void Ravens to disrupt the backline.
Yeah, and shout out to Golly G. And we did talk about the fact they didn't die. They also had more damage than the 2 DPS players on their team. So, again, we talked about how good Wu Yang is with damage. Maybe a little bit too good with damage.
Watch as he gets nerfed next season.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be nerfed back into the ground.
100%.
Nerfed back into the ground or back into the lake? Which one is it?
I think back to the lake makes the most sense. Or to the sea if you really want to call it a really awful nerf that basically makes him unplayable. That's down to the ocean, deep down.
Nerfed to the Mariana Trench.
Yes.
Jay, though, again, I mean, finding an early pick here would be exactly what they need. They did it last round. Now they have their sights set on here on Altaria, but Altaria also has their sights set on them as well. Quexion, though, going to be diving in on them. The Immortality Field actually be invested here, and that pylon already down. Altaria going to be able to win there from Jay, and this is just rough, honestly.
Quexion stayed alive way too long.
They stayed alive way too long, but I felt like they tried to wall climb, then they tried to use the dash to get up the wall, then they tried wall climbing again, and just kind of struggled with it. Golly G, though, hey, when one of your DPS is struggling, hey, at least you have Wu Yang here.
I mean, that's your saving grace for Void Ravens as of the moment. J20, though, looking for their respective Widowmaker and hoping to get the shot, and manages to do so. That should open it up. Please, just open it up.
You forgot about Golly G.
My God.
I mean, Golly G is the sniper with auto-aim, essentially, so they can control their shot here. But Quexion maybe a little bit too far, and again, going to be able to dash out this time, again, back to the safety of their team. Actually, they find Geo on the way out here, and Void Ravens in a really good spot right now. This is a very hard choke to get through, especially if the entire team can get set up.
Yep. Quexion already taking high ground means they're looking for an opening, but with how big the gap is between Quexion and Golly with ultimates-wise, they're probably okay with popping this bubble, this Tidal Blast from Golly first, and maybe help build towards another ultimate, or at least keep Hunted when they aggress in.
Captain Sun coming out there this time. I believe Hunted's shield completely denied it. The Fluxo just going to whiff there as Quexion finds one, make it two here. The Rock going to be able to shut down the Rock Monster there as they come burrowing out of the ground, and Void Ravens now going to play up here with only 2 minutes left to go here for Proboscis.
Proboscis could turn this around next fight. You have your own Flux, you have that window, so if I am them, definitely open up with the window, and that might force the respective window of Void Ravens, but they have to be at least a bit more proactive, and that's been a problem for them.
It really has right now. Visor's coming out here from Altaria as they just try to make sure that everyone on their team knows where they all are. Altaria, they're already using it to good value right there. Finding Jay, who, again, Jay found the first pick in this round here for Proboscis. Hasn't been able to do much since, but again, that's not necessarily their fault as Void Ravens. It seems like it takes them about the first 30 seconds of every round to get into it, and after they get settled in, they look unstoppable.
Yep. Proboscis still with 3 ultimates for soon. I think the combo for this is just going to be to use a window to slow the push of Proboscis. That's what Void Ravens is likely going to do. That's why Lynx is playing immensely far back, waiting for the sights to go further down because you want to be a full when you enter.
Flux coming out here from Earl, but hey, you're starting to see Proboscis really get a good foothold in this fight. 2 DPS players down, and now Jay looking for more here as they're trying to focus in on Hunted. Flux now coming out from them as they're going to be able to actually capture a couple here. Golly G will find one. Getting rid of Geo there is actually a pretty good pick. The Accretion going to be able to stop Earl from using their own grass right there. So a good kind of denial as now you see Golly G. They're using their ultimate for themselves here. They're going aggressive, finding one. Hey, this Wu Yang's in your back line and you cannot turn fast enough.
I don't think Godly has died for this whole map. I really do not think so. And that's a painful statistic to think of if you're a Proboscis. But you do have 3 ultimates. You have to open with one of them. But the Blade's gonna deny it.
Blade out here, but he not even a touch. The Tectonic Shock not even going to be able to find anything right there. And Void Ravens picking up right where they left off from map number 1. A dominant team fight victory here. And I think you're right. Golly G, probably never dying once and probably again out DPSing the DPS heroes on their team. Probably the other.
I mean, just from positioning wise of where Golly was playing, I think it made complete sense why they are pumping up a huge amount of damage, right? Always being on that backside of their respective Sigma and keeping them up was a critical factor. You pump in the additional damage while that shield is up, it puts immense pressure on whoever the tank is for them. But I believe we are entering a short break first, Dex.
Yeah, we're going to throw it over to a quick break, and when we come back from it, Void Ravens looking to find their second sweep of the season. Proboscis Esports trying to make sure they at least extend it a little bit here. Hey, or start the reverse sweep. Everyone, stick around. You're not going to want to miss map 3.
Lots of love. Love. Got 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 lots of love. Love.
Well, as we continue on with our Saturday night matchup here, Void Ravens basically picking up right where they left off last week in a 3-0 victory, right now up 2-0 over Proboscis Esports. And Thor, I mean, Proboscis, they've had their opening opportunities, they've had chances, but it seems like Void Ravens, outside the first maybe 15, 30 seconds of every map, they get settled in, and man, do they settle in and are hard to get past.
Yep, I think some of these opening picks that Proboscis Esports has just needs to be capitalized upon by the team, and it seems like once they get that pick, there seems to be a collapse on, okay, who do we go on next? That might be something critical that they need to consider entering into this third and match point map for this series. So they have options, but there is something nice about going to a map that's very tried and tested and well rehearsed. There's only so much options that could be, and the fact that we're done with Control means it's only one other map. Yes, we're heading to the gloomy streets of King's Row.
The gloomy streets of London, yes. Perfect. No notes about that. But yeah, Kings Row. I mean, I feel like this is always going to kind of be the default pick here at some point in every series. We talked about there. It's been everyone's go-to pick. It's basically has the moniker of Scrims Row for a reason. Everyone loves to play this map. It's a lot of comfort, I think, is the main reason. But still, at the same time, in Overwatch 2, this has gone away from being a pure brawl map to really a mixed bag map where you can expect anything.
I think that just inherently came with shifting from that 6v6 scenario to a 5v5, where now you don't have to worry about a tag that's contesting point all the time. It's going to be something like a squishier target. So that allowed for more variety in composition. So if I'm Proboscis, though, you start to wonder which hero you want to ban, and if you want to turn things around, maybe it's time to take a look at the hero pools of Void Raven and maybe target something that they like going to and forcing them into a different composition that might feel a bit more familiar to your team to play against.
Yeah, absolutely. But they just say, hey, we don't want to see the Genji, but hey, that's not been the worst. That's actually a really good big ban here. I think for Proboscis, you've been seeing Genji from Void Ravens back on map 1, especially map 2, find a lot of value. So not necessarily a bad ban here. Honestly, it might be a really good ban here, but now Void Ravens, they have the choice between tank and support. Thor, they like banning support. Do you think they go 3 for 3 here?
I mean, it would be interesting if they do go for a support, right? But if you're taking a look at what these two teams play, other than the Wuyang, they've been pretty much playing the same support line for their flex support. So at that point, maybe they might actually lean towards a tank ban this time. I say this, but apparently, shout out to Mataneva from the Void. Yes, we have a Kiriko ban map 3, and it's not even a flashpoint or control or push map. It's on King's Row.
I mean, this is a Kiri, kind of like I said at the start with when I was talking about Lucio being a safe ban. I feel like Kiri at any point in a series is just relatively a safe ban. Both teams probably play it a decent amount here, but you really see Void Ravens kind of replace Kiri or replace Lucio with that Wuyang here. So I would really expect Wuyang to be a mainstay here for Void Ravens heading into this map here. So not necessarily the worst one, but hey, 3 for 3 on supports. I think that tells us a lot about how Void Ravens think, that they might just really, really hate support players. But hey, speaking of that, it looks like we're going to have a sub coming in here. It's going to be Renvela coming in here for Void Ravens.
I think this substitution is already a hint that they're going to play a Lucio, but more of maybe it might be a BAP Lucio in this type of scenario, because you see the icon, it's a Lucio player, so that might be something they are going for. Now, what would be interesting is whether the side of Proboscis might be going for something like maybe a Mei for this defense or attack of theirs, because Mei is still on the board. Mei at chokes of King's Row is oppressive. You still see teams play a Mei if you're expecting a Brawl v Brawl scenario, and when you force a team to play Brawl in King's Row, it sounds like a given if it's not banned.
Yeah, absolutely. May, though, I mean, that was a hero I would really expect to see last map on Circuit. That's really been one of May's best maps. But still, this is one of May's best maps throughout the entirety of Overwatch in its history, really, here. But Ren, I understand. Actually, no. Yeah, I understand they're attacking.
I see the vision. I see the vision. This could potentially be also that boost just right outside of spawn. I think your Pharah should be fine on their own, and then that might be a switch to a Ana potentially, but they also could just be going wacky because they're currently up 2-0, and they probably know something that we don't.
I mean, I would expect it for the boosted shot, but they're really not even on them. They're actually on Quexion here to just try to get something there. It's gonna be probably a swap right back over here to Tracer, where Alteria's actually been doing pretty good without the Genji here. This is kind of the hero I would expect them to fall into, but you do see Geo over on the other side on the Mei, but Proboscis decides not to play the choke.
Yep, I think it's the comfort of playing this corner, but already forcing that cooldown from Undead is this team.
Yeah, and Hunted's going to be able to really find a lot of value here, but again, I think this is the third map here of the night. Jay's been able to find the first pick here, but they're immediately traded right back out after that. However, if you're Void Ravens, you lose your main source of healing, essentially. You also just lost your tank. Ren going over to the Lucio here now, as I think it was a one life wonder there for that Mercy.
Yep, but it is looking in favor so far of Void Raven as they are up the numbers. Everyone else from Proboscis is coming back, and with your Mei down, your Ryan isn't going to survive just as long. No secondary semi-tank to be there, and that should be the point turn in favor of Void Raven. So I think you don't want to stall any further if you are Proboscis, and already looking not too hot. Now, let's take a look at the ultimates. I don't think Proboscis is going to be starting on the same, I guess, point. Oh, no, they are a full 5, I think. So they could open up with a window, but a down part is available for Void Ravens, and they might use that.
Oh. Already you see the tidal wave out there. I don't know who it was on, but JPEG Mafia being taken out there by Ren as they're finding a lot of value here. Here's the downpour. It's going to find a decent amount of value. Earl not able to get that shield up in time. Will get Rue there as Quexion finds TJ clipped in that backline as Void Ravens. They're just casually moving this car one by one. And hey, much like these last couple maps, they're picking up Proboscis one by one here.
Yep, and there's bullying this Rhine of Earl to no end. Shatter, beat, window, and let's call it a Blizzard to top it all off, available online. And with only the Tracer on cart, this cart is definitely moving slow. So they're going to have another chance to recontest, and it might even be further up if they find solid picks with an ultimate this fight.
And Hunted already in a really good spot here. JPEG Mafia already has to use one huge cooldown, not even going to be able to get that Immortality Field out here. Quexion pops the barrage, it's moving, finds that DPS line there, and Void Ravens, you can see they're starting to feel themselves here. They are playing a really, really good map right now.
I don't know if it's a really... I mean, let's give credit. It is a really good map they have been playing, but it definitely feels like Proboscis Esports does not want to use any ultimates. It seems like they're waiting for the perfect moment when in a fight where you're already being pushed up by the enemy team, you had 4 ultimates online. There really isn't anything wrong with popping one of them to slow down the push and to take the space back from yourselves, because that's what you definitely need.
Earl, though, finding Altaria there right now, but already that second point captured here. JPEG, though, finds Hunted and Void Ravens. I mean, it seems like maybe their over-aggression coming back to bite them here, but this is just, I think, Proboscis. Remember, we saw this on point 3 of Circuit Royale, where they were able to really slow them down here for a fight, but they really need to try to just get locked in here now to really get away from a lot of that time bank.
Yep, and they have 5 ultimates. Let's not ult dump all of them, even though Void Ravens will have 4. I think having an even trade of ultimates is what's needed. So someone has to be ult counting, especially with the Pulse Bomb online.
Pulse Bomb's out there, going to be able to get rid of a lot of Earl's health. Beat going to come out to save everyone there. Proboscis does have 5 ultimates. Say hello to 3 of them. There's that downpour. Going to be able to root a couple, but Hunted going to actually get frozen up there. Quexion, though, going to be able to find Jay, and right now Hunted needs some support. They're not going to be able to get any. Ren going to be able to immediately trade out there onto Geo. At the moment, though, Void Ravens, they're still casually winning this fight here as Altaria tries to get rid of TJ Clip. They'll be able to get that one there with some help from Ren, but you do see the last one alive there, slowly backing out. Proboscis, though, still has two more ultimates here, though.
Yep, I definitely wanted to see this window popped very much earlier. I feel like it's being held for way too long, which is essentially a cooldown if you think about it. Swaps coming for Proboscis, at least gets one from that shatter, but the barrage is there.
Quixio's been able to build these up pretty fast, finding 2 last time, finding 1 already this time. That orb, though, from Gali, not going to be enough to keep him alive. Jay, they're going to be able to get that small health pack there. Now they pop the healing circle here, but Ren finding 2 right now, going on a little bit of a tear. Haunted got off the hazard, going over to the Wrecking Ball instead, and it's causing just as much trouble here for Proboscis. 3 minutes on that time bank. Pulse Bomb out right there as you do see Earl go charging across the point, not going to be able to find any sticks as Hunted knocks them back. Ant-Match is out here from JPEG as they just try to do anything, but instead they're just going to be booped off the map. Jay going to shut them down though, but it's not going to be enough. Void Ravens, 3 minutes on that time bank, Thor, and that is a really, really hard time bank there.
That's a hard time bank to get, for one, because just 3 minutes means you have been rolling, right? You've only been stopped probably once or twice for some of these fights. In this case, for Void Ravens, I think it was only once. And yet again, even when not on the Wuyang, Galio G-Wagon is still 0 deaths on their defense attack.
Gali G has been maybe the most impressive player so far in this entire lobby. You've seen a lot of pop-offs from everyone, but Gali G has just played this Wu Yang incredibly well. And like we've already kind of mentioned, if this was at pro level, we would be seeing Wu Yang get just nerfed tomorrow, because Gali G is putting on a masterclass here.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter what support Gali is paired with on this Wuyang. He still seems to be getting value, and a lot of it comes from that high damage. And I think we're starting to see how Wuyang should be played on a team composition, really going in with either maybe that tank or the other DPS that's going in. You can't really be poking from a distance. It's not really a character that works well that way, it seems like it. And I think it inherently also requires a lot of map knowledge, because there's already a Widow. Oh my god, no!
Gali G adding on to his kill streak here at the moment. Jay, though, trying to just get rid of Quexion here. Quexion trying to get some health. Looks like they had Gali G's orb on them to keep him alive, but at some point, if you're Jay, if you don't find a kill here in probably the next 15-20 seconds, you're probably looking to swap off. They have targets, but they just need to be able to find that one shot. Did we mention Altaria is playing junk?
No, we did not. But I think at this point, with how well your Wuyang is pretty much doing and everyone else on the enemy team is struggling, you might as well. I think this is style points at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, that was unfortunate trap placement there by Altair, because they had just trapped Earl, so when they threw that down, it let Earl go free. Granted, didn't really lead to much right there for either side. Earl's still alive playing the Queen here, now trying to aggress up here. But right now, Jay sticking with this Widow, just trying to find that one opening pick, which is all that Proboscis needs here right now. But Hunted, gonna be able to shut down JPEG, gonna be able to shut down that entire support line. Ren finds Geo, and now again, you're just seeing Void Ravens pick off every member of Proboscis.
I'm trying to figure out what Proboscis can do to turn things around. I think with what Void Ravens is running, the Brig is definitely out of the question, in my opinion. That's a lot of spam damage coming in. Your Brig wants to brawl, but if they're all spamming from a distance, your Brig really can't do much. So it's great for dealing with maybe the Hazard, but there might be better characters to deal with it. Maybe an Ana could be one. It's still available online, but Downpour available for 100, but might not need it, especially when Quexion gets Geo in the process.
Quexion has been doing really good, but Jay gonna be able to find Ren here, and this is the kind of pick you need if you're Proboscis. The Downpour coming out, you're gonna be able to trap a couple. Actually just kills Jay right off the back right there. Earl not gonna be able to escape as Quexion finds them. Looks like that support line, though, for Proboscis gonna be able to leave with their life here and regroup with their team.
Proboscis is building up towards ultimates. I think they definitely need one to open things up, but when you have a Tidal Blast available from Gali and a Hazard that wants to go in, you could just pop it on the Hazard to keep them alive.
And I mean, that's what we've been seeing a lot here. Gali G, though, they might actually do it on themselves. Nope, there's that Tidal Whip onto them. The Tire, the Barrage! Oh my goodness! 4 members of Proboscis go up in explosions.
What also went up in explosions are 4 ultimates from the side of Void Ravens, so they're definitely relying on just getting picks for this next fight to continue stalling the point, especially when your only ultimate online is going to be this window. And I think this might be a high value window with how much Proboscis is a bit struggling to even break through this choke. That could deny one angle.
And right now, I mean, they just have to find something here right now. There's that window coming out here from Ren. So there's all the ultimates gone now for Void Ravens. Ren going to be able to find Jay. That's a huge early pick. Earl, though, they have this Rampage. However, everyone for Boss is kind of playing far away from each other. You want to try to find a lot of value with it, but you're just losing your teammates behind them. Hunting now, just doing their namesake here. Hunting everyone on the other side. Golly gee. Again, still hasn't died yet. Picks up the final 2 picks here.
And I see a flanking Junkrat, which I think is to be expected at this point. But if I'm Proboscis, you could likely open up with a Juno ultimate and maybe even this Rampage, especially when you force out the lamp of Renville.
Yeah, but still, oh, Jay just gets kind of just snuck up on right there. TJ does have the orbital ray, not gonna be able to do much with it this time as they are dead. Earl, I mean, they're gonna be holding on to this Rampage here because it really makes no sense. And Thor, I don't know if we're gonna see a touch come out here from Proboscis. No, they'll be holding on to those 2 ultimates into the night here. But Void Ravens, I mean, again, they pick up right where they left off last week. Another 3-0 sweep for them. And we might have to start the conversation of, is this the best team in the Masters tier?
I think when you look at it faced on to a composition that isn't running this Wuyang, you could argue that potentially, but we have yet to see this team maybe face off against in some level of mirror matchup. And in that kind of scenario, now you start to wonder, okay, in a head-to-head similar compositional matchup, can they keep up? Will they still stand the best among the rest?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see. But again, I think we're still so early on in the season that a lot of these teams, especially with Wuyang now being in, I mean, we didn't see Proboscis play Wuyang at all. Void Ravens might be one of those teams that's really practiced a lot with Wuyang here. So we're seeing right now, especially with how Kali G played throughout this entire night, how strong Wuyang truly is here. But I mean, you see the bans throughout the night. Void Ravens went 3 for 3 on supports, and it really didn't seem to affect them. It really seemed to kind of affect Proboscis on the other side, though.
I think that might actually just be the play. Was it affected what this other team feels comfortable running, right? When you've played such a long period of time of Overwatch where the kind of meta has been to either have like a Lucio or a Brig, right? And you now throw anything that's conventional out the window with a new character that actually makes sense in its integration, right? We've had Lifeweaver join, not really that consistent in execution in team competitive settings, but now that you have one that comes in and it can consistently perform, now you're throwing a lot of teams out into the loop and in one way or another forcing main support players to now learn how to play a new character.
Time to go to new hero jail for main support players.
I new hero jail for flex support on Juno for a while was terrifying.
Absolutely, but hey, Void Ravens find a great 3-0 victory here tonight. Everyone, we're going to throw it over to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have an interview with Renvelt from the side of Void Ravens. So everyone, stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back everyone to the booth here. We are pleased to be joined by Renvelt, not Hiccup, but Renvelt from Void Ravens here. Hey, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Another 3-0 sweep for your team. And one thing that we talked about potentially before we went to break here, do you think with this victory here tonight, it makes you guys potentially the best team here in this Masters tier?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say that we are the best, but you know, until someone like stops us from being the best, I think we'll continue being the best. And I'll keep it that simple.
Hey, that's a good answer.
Hey, I mean, you definitely need, another team to keep up with you in order to really test your team's ability. But I want at least an idea. So you came in for that last map of King's Row. So what's the decision to swap the support line?
Well, there's two answers. One answer, the kind of serious answer is, I was pretty much begging to get some playtime. I'll be so for real. I was kind of bored just sitting there watching my team dominate, so I wanted a little hand in it. And secondly, we wanted to try more of the Lucio Wu Yang comp, see how we were doing with that. And we've been practicing this. We've been practicing with the BAP flex support. We're putting me on BAP, so yeah, pretty much just doing that. I'm bored, so I need something to do while waiting here. So go ahead, yeah.
Well, it seems like no matter who was in, your team definitely dominated. Now, I do also have a solid question of what was with the Junkrat pick on King's Row, because that's very interesting to roll out on, considering maybe back in Overwatch 1, it was a feasible character to have on King's Row, but something very interesting to now run on Overwatch 2.
Well, yeah, so good old Altaria 234. That's my man right there. That's my GOAT. That's my ride or die. So, actually, yeah, we were playing Tracer on attack, and then he just says, hey, I'm lagging. I can barely do this, so you mind if I just go Junkrat? And we were like, yeah, sure, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I felt confident that he could pull it off, and he really did pull it off, and I'm proud of him.
And hey, he did really good on it. But I want to talk about one other player on your team right now, Golly G. I believe the last two maps, they didn't die at all. But you talked about playing that kind of backline support line with Lucio and Wu Yang. It seems like Golly G has been able to pick up Wu Yang here very, very fast compared to some of the other teams here. Or at least your team's been able to pick up Wu Yang very fast compared to some of the other teams here in this tier. Do you think that's going to give you guys a big kind of like boost or a huge benefit in a lot of these series?
Absolutely, Don. I've known Golly for about like 2 years now. I love that man to death. When Juno first came out, he picked up that character so fast. That is probably his best trait. He knows how to pick up a character really fast. I do feel confident about our Wu Yang a lot, and yeah, I feel really good about it. Yeah, I love Golly. #.
And they had an excellent series here tonight. But hey, Renvelt, before we let you go and go back to your team to celebrate this victory here tonight, we want to give you time to shout out anyone or anything you want.
Yeah, I just want to shout out the team. We've been playing together for about 2 years in the Diamond tier. We finally went up to here. Shout out Hunted. You know, that's my GOAT. He's just learning mouse and keyboard now, and the progress that he's made already in the few weeks that he's done is just incredible. Shout out Golly. That is the best player. That's the best to do it at all. Shout out my DPS line. Shout out Quetzalcoatl. He's kind of a killer at Genji. And yeah, just shout out the entire Void Ravens, just players. Yeah. Shout out.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. Again, everyone, that was Renvelt from tonight's victors, Void Ravens. Man, we'll let you go and go and relax and celebrate this victory here with your team tonight, man.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Well, Thor, I mean, it was a really dominant series here for Void Ravens. We talked about throughout, basically picking up right where they left off, and the confidence we heard there from Renvelt that they are the best team until someone stops them. I have to believe that right there, and I'm actually going to say that's the truth at this moment right now. Someone really has to stop this team, because we saw a lot throughout the series tonight. Proboscis was able to slow them down temporarily, but never fully stop this train that is Void Ravens.
Exactly, but hey, they did say this is a team that's been together for 2 years. This is a team with synergy, and they did move up from Diamond tiers. So if there's one thing they do have going for them, it's that newness of this tier and facing off what might be a bit more challenging because there are still some mainstay teams in this Masters tier that they haven't faced off against and who have been dominating in their respective matches, or at least learning how to dominate, or at least over a course of a matchup. But I believe this is it for us. Let's take a look at the schedule, at least for today, and where we at least have ended up.
Yeah, 2-3-0 sweeps here today. Tormenting Tentacles losing over to HMS Saber in EU, and Void Ravens being able to sweep Proboscis Esports here tonight. I mean, it was a really good series here for Void Ravens. I don't think they really made any mistakes, and I mean, we even highlighted Golly G for, I don't think, dying in the last two maps, which is something that I always say is difficult no matter what kind of tier or skill level you're playing at.
Exactly. It is being able to get in, get out, and land some shots in the process, because it seemed like they were just able to understand the projectile of Wu Yang so well, which I think is where a lot of newer players are struggling with this new character.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're able to learn Wu Yang quickly, you're going to have a big boost here up until probably, let's say, week or two here, maybe mid-season, where we finally see probably a huge change to Wu Yang. But hey, a good series here for Void Ravens. They keep up their week 1 success by winning week 2 in sweeping fashion. Thor, thank you so much tonight for joining me, and want to give a quick shout out to Hippie and Headrammer behind the scenes for getting all the stuff that we saw here. Everyone, though, we still have more action tomorrow starting in EU and NA, so make sure you tune back into CGL for all that. But until then, hope you have a good night and see you tomorrow.